Deci, continuăm partea a doua cu experții estonieni. Deja o să vă rog foarte mult să vorbiți în română, pentru că colega noastră, Camelia, o să traduc în engleză tot. Respectiv, noi să auzim pe Camelia, poate să mă duc și am să o ajut și eu cu traducerea în limba română. Și după care o să intervenim după a doua prezentare cu întrebări, cu o sesiune de întrebări. Vă rog să veniți mai aproape. Mă bucur că au fost aici mai mulți studenți, cred că s-a încălzit un pic spațiu, că eu m-am mișcat. Așa că eficiență energetică, să fim cât mai aproape, unii de alții. Eu am să-mi cer scuze, eu am să mă duc, asta este am să ajut acum cel puțin la prima prezentare pe Camelia, după care o să revin. Sunt aici. Așa.
Okay. So. Eva, I think we can start.
Okay. As we have a bit late, we have only 15 minutes for the next presentation when our speaker is coming online. I suggest that we will take now this half of this presentation. It's recorded and we can watch it later at the end, the case studies, but also we will share this presentation with you. You are free to use it later. Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome from windy Tallinn. Today now I'm going to tell you a bit more about culture and creativity as a source of sustainable growth and development for cities and regions, and some highlights from Europe.
You don't hear presentation? No?
Ne-am învățat deja.
Seems to me that we have some technical problems. I'm not very familiar with this media. not in YouTube, I can share with you. And yeah, but now it's too late to start this. Maybe we can take it later, this video.
Eu vă spun că e cam...
Let's give audience some minutes break, and at 1 o'clock we have next speaker here.
Eu vă spun că e cam dificil acum de făcut. Dacă era pe YouTube, atunci era mai ușor de făcut share și de făcut prezentare. De asta ea ne va trimite prezentarea, noi o să o avem și facem o pauză până la ora 1, când deja următorul speaker are să fie live de pe Zoom, nu are să fie înregistrat ca și acum. Așa că facem o pauză.
Domnul Salacă, domnul Avă, doamna Padam, domnul Zacu, substituționează domnul Nouă. Eric, da, nu, eu trebuie să spunem domnul Eric, da, e necos ce are. Eu o să eu și pot face viața. Eram într-o pauză, ne-am observat că contextul eu la față, mă dai, vă spun eu. Îți faci pauză așa de ușor, oare voi? Așa de ușor. Nu, dar anecdotul care îl aveam noi cu Eric și cu Laurie, era o mea în 2009, de-am spus că iau să-i anunțăm că iau trecut, dar vă dați seama, 20 mai. Foarte. Că fac uite, mai mult. Era experta mea, era filmată. Sunteți domnul Mare? Mare asta nu e, bărbat. Nu e totul pe ea. Domnul Mare, bine ați trecut. Nu, are nici Laurie și Eric. Pentru că Laurie și Eric. Nu, pentru că trecut Eric, că Laurie era primul de timp. Era un plăcere. Eu învățăm de prădare. Asta e. Dar deja din 2007, o muncă la primărie, locale, și am avut primar domnul Barciu, care a fost primul grup de primari de societate. Nu știu dacă știți, că a fost la Părăția. Da, domnul de la mine, noi, domnul care zice, da, domnul, ăsta, nu înseamnă care
Să marcui pe loc.
Tere.
Da.
Tere, Marco.
Tere.
Hi, Marco. Can you hear us?
Yes.
We can start the presentation, but please include the interpretation mode and go into English because our colleague is going to translate into Romanian. And Camelia, could you turn on the camera, please? Camelia is going to show you some gestures to kind of, if you need to slow down, or you can go ahead. Slow down, Camelia. One finger. Go on. I might replace Camelia and help her a little bit, so the same gestures are going to be used.
Okay, I hope we
Let's have a
can
test.
fit into this time frame.
Enter
with
translation
translation.
and choose, please, English. Camelia aude pe toți, da? Marco, let's try.
Okay,
Hai să începem.
I will share my slides.
Nu. Ia să mă așez.
Okay, now what should happen?
Camelia, nu te auzi.
Camelia, dar noi nu intenționam să ne auzim.
Noi nu intenționam să ne auzim. Auzi acum? Încearcă acum să vorbești? Acum da. Deci o să începem acum cu următoarea sesiune. Nu, eu îți vorbesc în română. Și la Camelia. Corect, Camelia traduci. Marin. Vom începe cu următoarea sesiune și acum, ca primul vorbitor, îl avem pe Marco Caru, care a consultat peste 200 de organizații în tot ce este de branding, de comunicare și chiar a și fondat câteva organizații creative. O să las pe el să se autoprezinte, deja vedeți câteva branduri pe care el le-a reprezentat, dar, Marco, cred că o să te rog să preiei tu de aici.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. And I presume that it was introduction to the presentation. And as has been said, my history lies within creating different brands, helping to develop services and products. And today I'm going to do a short introduction on what is service design or how to develop services based on user needs. So everything that is sold as products and services, and well, government services are also part of that. are provided in the context of making somebody's life easier. So those services only exist because somebody doesn't know how to cut hair or make clothes or provide medical care to themselves. So all products and services are helping us to do so-called job in our everyday life, making our kids smarter or help to get from one place to another. And in order to improve those products and services, we have to understand why people need those services in the first place. Because quite often, those services we see have been around already for ages, and we don't question whether we need them. And those who provide those services become quite blind to notice what is actually appreciated about their work. We go to work, we do our job, but does it help somebody to get along with their life? That's another question. So whenever there are discussions about improving products and services, the first thing is to understand that you are probably blind to those problems people actually have around you. And as fish are not able to describe water around them, also we as service providers are quite blind to the needs of people who are visiting us. For example, let's take this MRT machine. It's a medical device, and the question how that can be improved maybe at first is a question of aesthetic, how to make this device more eye-pleasing and easier to use. But those machines are meant for scanning people. And if by chance you have seen any of those devices in action, then you would know that it makes terrible noise. Now, let's imagine you are 8 years old and you are placed under such device and told to be completely still for 15 minutes. You feel terrified. I mean, try telling 8-year-old to be completely still. They can't, unless they have a challenge. So the designers who were involved in making those devices better observed children visiting hospitals and then quickly realized that it's not the device that needs changing, but it's the experience of taking this MRT scan. And therefore, they played or involved this device into a game. Let's say it's a treasure hunt, or it's a jungle adventure, something that turns this situation completely around and makes it into a journey, something interesting, something the kid is willing to participate in, whether it's to get the prize or be part of this pirate ship's team. So design quite often is seen in the context of making things aesthetically pleasing. It's playing around with forms and colors, but at the core, design is a problem-solving discipline. which means that every time you are designing something, you are asking yourself a question. What do I solve? What is the problem the people are having that I am helping to solve? So this creative problem solving is the skill service design is applying on things that usually are not seen as designed, because services don't have a form. It's an act. One person talks to another, and that person helps the person who asked for help. But those situations, if observed properly, always hide this underlying need. On this picture, you have electrical drill. And all manufacturers who are making those are competing with other drill makers. So they try to improve the product. They want to make it lighter, using better battery, being more powerful and whatnot. But most of the people actually need a hole in their living room's wall. So maybe this power isn't appreciated. So in order to understand that we are actually helping people, we have to first go out and ask them. People have contextual needs. You can see that when people get lost in airports, or they cannot fill the form, they just fail to do the thing you plan them to do. Then they have personal goals. They are visiting you because they have aspirations. They want to get something done. They don't need to I don't know, register a car. This is not their need. They want to drive with a car, and then they want to impress other people with their new car. So it's their personal goal that actually drives them to visit this DMV where they can register their car. And then there are human needs. And this is, again, something that people are doing, but not expressing in words. So when they, let's say, plastic surgery is an interesting subject where people are changing their appearance just to belong or basically be more appreciated by other people. And I guess no patient of cosmical surgery is expressing their need in that way. So what you usually do in service design is you approach people, you conduct interviews, you observe them, and try to understand how their life can be improved. And also, all services are part of journeys. It starts from their home. Let's say you want to buy a television. You are not starting in an electronic shop. You visited a friend who had a new TV, and then you browsed the internet and you looked for different models, and then you discussed with your friend, and then you saw an ad, and then you went to the shop, and then you looked at the different televisions that were available, and then you purchased it, and then you took it home, and then you lived on 7th floor, so you need to get it up there and you don't have the elevator, and then you have a large cardboard box which you have to get rid of, and then you have old television and you have to sell it first in order to fit this big new television into your apartment. So it's not like a one instance, it's not buying a television, but first you have to understand how that person, for instance, can get rid of their old television first so they can buy a new one. So it's a long journey. And once we see it as extended learning, then we can help them with this actual contact as well. In Houston Airport, people were complaining about long waiting time to receive their luggage. And the officials looked at the situation and saw that, well, yes, people are waiting for 7 minutes, but maybe there is something we can do about it. So they decided to tour the luggage from one plane to the next luggage lane, so that people who previously came out of the airplane and then standed next to the luggage this lane, they waited, but now they had to walk into the next luggage lane, and those complaints stopped because people didn't experience waiting while they were walking, and therefore this waiting time was hidden into their walking time. So it's not about improving the quality of the service as such, but it's about improving the service experience that people are having. So it is about removing obstacles, uncertainty, and confusion from their way and helping them to achieve their goals with least effort. We see it a lot with interfaces that developers, all services hide this business logic. You have a way of doing things, and similarly in software development, you have programmers who are creating this machine that is providing the service. And all the end user needs to do is to click the right button. So the interface becomes the service layer between the user and the business. And quite often, those interfaces are too complex and difficult to understand because they are developed around providing service, not around receiving service or ordering the service. So as I showed you this fish in this model bowl, if you are looking at the quality of the service from the business side, the operational side, you never see the opportunities to improve your service. You always have to go out and see how your service is perceived. Are people knowledgeable enough to fill in the forms? Do they know answers to your questions? Do they have time to fill in those forms? Is this form really needed? Those are all valid questions and quite often lead up to great improvements around the services. So one layer of improvements is in touch points, whether it's better signage, whether it's better explanations, even lighting can improve. So people are usually walking toward well-lit exits, not to ones which are in shadows. Operations is something that can also be improved. Who needs to do what part of the operation can be sometimes played around. For instance, in Finland, they use postal workers to take the pulse of elderly people. So they just combine two different services. So the medical doctor doesn't have to visit those faraway villages because the postal worker is already going there and therefore can do this operation by themselves. And third layer is a business model. Who is paying for what? And that's another topic because sometimes that can also be changed. Now there is an example from UK where there were 12% of people who were 12% of those hospitalized patients in intensive care, they received wrong medication. So 12 people out of 100 got wrong pills while being in a hospital. When they started observing how those mistakes were made, they noticed that those nurses who were handing out those pills, they were constantly interrupted by their colleagues. Hey, can you please and help me with this patient, or please give me your opinion on this rash, or is this normal, and this is this number right? So while they were handing out those pills, they quite often got lost in their task at hand. So the design solution was to hand out those red vests, which said that do not disturb dark ground in progress. And the situation was improved because those nurses weren't then interrupted by their co-workers. So the solutions into those problems are coming from places you were not expecting. And as a designer, it is very important for you to notice and recognize and describe what was the actual problem. And that skill is called design thinking, which is about thinking what could be, whereas you have been describing the problem in a new and interesting way. For instance, we have this museum in Tallinn Old Town, which has those rounded staircase. And they had to get people in wheelchairs to the second floor. The simple question is how to get those people to the second floor. But once you reframe the question, how can you provide a museum experience? Then we looked into different virtual reality solutions where those people in wheelchairs didn't need to go to the second floor, because then they could experience this museum while being on the first floor and taking part of this special exhibition. So reframing is quite often the key. You isolate the problem and you solve it in a new and a novel way. But building empathy, this is something that everyone can do without even being a designer. For instance, you probably have had issues with bus drivers taking dangerous turns while there were people on bicycles on the bicycle lane. And in Brazil, what they did is that they put those bus drivers on bicycles while they were dangerously being passed by a bus. So now those bus drivers have the experience of a cyclist who are trying to survive in the traffic. Before that, they only experienced the situation from their own safe position. So this information asymmetry is quite often the key to understanding the struggle people are having. Because for us, those needs that people have are repeating. We see elderly people all the time, or first-time parents all the time, or people with I don't know, receiving or starting a business in agriculture. They're doing it for the first time, and you have done it for 30 years. It is impossible for them to have the same vocabulary, the same understanding of things. They need help with the simple stuff, and you need to forget about what you know in order to help them. This lady on the picture is actually 38 years old. Her name is Patricia Moore, and she used to be a design student. And she did the first research on accessibility of public services, railway station, library. She did it because most of architects and designers and city officials are in their good health. They can open the doors, they can go to the fourth floor, they can easily stay on their legs for an hour. But elderly people and people with disabilities, they are not as capable. And as those public spaces are meant for everybody, it is important for a designer to be able to empathize with elderly and people with disabilities. And just because of that, now there is a special training for designers, how it is to experience life from senior standpoint, because otherwise everything will be designed around young people's abilities, and this is not really how the world works, because most of the people are not as capable as you. I have a story to tell, which is a personal research project. We were asked to give like an overview whether this personal packaging service is it something of a convenience, or is it something that people actually need? Those little packets here contain medication. Those are timed, so each pocket has the medication for a certain time, and you receive this box when you give all your prescribed medication to a special lab where they divide it into those little pockets. And we did a series of interviews and observations. We visited elderly people who are using those, and we spoke with caretakers and family doctors and pharmacists and first aid and try to understand what are the actual issues there and how those can be improved. So in a nutshell, the process is so that once the person has reached a certain age or has a disease or disability, and they have been prescribed 5 different types of medication, they are usually sent to consultancy to pharmacy, and this pharmacist is then prescribing them this service, personal packaging, which you are then receiving from the pharmacy. And then you, at home, you're doing the treatment, and everybody hopes that you're getting better. Now, the biggest issue is that those elderly people forget to take their medicine. And because of that, it's a huge burden for their relatives and friends who are always reminding them to take the medicine and taking care that they have bought all the prescribed medicine. What we also found out is that those family doctors quite often prescribe double the amount of the medication just to make sure that the person takes enough. If this medicine is 90% subsidized by the state, they are wasting a lot of money. Also, the consultation with pharmacists usually consists of going over all the different supplements that those people are taking and making sure that there are no, let's say, unwanted complications when they are taking those drugs and those supplements together. Then, in order to package those prescribed medications, the amounts the doctor is prescribing have to have the same period. You have 100 tablets of one, and then you have 50 tablets of other medication. So you can only package 50, and 100 will then wait for the next round. So the more different medications you are taking, the more it becomes difficult to package them, because the amounts and duration of those prescriptions don't fit. And then the big issue is that those elderly people, quite often living in rural areas or not being able to move, cannot order somebody else to bring this package to them, because it's legally not allowed to hand over personal medication to a third party. So what happens in those hospices where there is a large number of those elderly people taking medication is that the caretaker takes 10 different ID cards, 10 different bank cards, goes to pharmacy and makes the purchase for on behalf of all those people. You cannot use a courier, and somebody else has to have your ID with you. So it's a large burden for everybody in the system. And also, funny thing, we found out that one of the design ideas was to think how everybody in the system benefits. When you have a first aid visit, then they are checking for all the medication that you are taking, and it would be really helpful if there would be a list of all the medication that you are taking on one place. So coming to solutions, during this consultancy, we created this form so the pharmacist can discuss the daily life of each patient and figure out what medication they are and food supplements they are already taking. Then just understanding how all those different stakeholders are communicating and what are their interests. And then the digital side of the service had to be made transparent also for the family doctor, so they could see what medication was actually taken by the people, because currently they are just prescribing those medications, but they have no feedback from the system. And the last thing, as discussed, once there is this overview over what medication is prescribed to that person, and also it is helping them to remind when they need to take the medicine, so everybody could win from those improvements. So courier service, medical calendar, this is something we introduced to the system, and as a benefit for the state, if they start subsidizing this service in 20 years, they will save 162 million euros just by having people around those hospitalized people active, and also reducing mistreatment by wrongly taken medicine. So to conclude, service design helps build empathy toward the users. You start considering services as journeys. Then you bring together different organizations who share the same goal. And then you start asking those challenging questions which haven't been really raised because there are no real solutions yet, because the situation is new. I hope it was interesting. Are there any questions or comments to the content?
Thank you. Mulțumesc, Marcu. Este un comentariu, întrebare, Violeta?
Ce ține de lecuire, la noi problema este alta. Medicul prescrie mai întâi un tratament după care nu este omul examinat normal Și nu este problema că nu se ia pastila la timp. Este, la noi în țară este o problemă, nu ceea ce piste hotare, la dânsii poate să prescrie lecuirea 100% specialistului bun și problema e că nu se ia pastila la timp, dar la noi e altă problemă. Așa că să ne gândim după fiecare și probleme are regiunea lui.
Din problemele noastre găsim soluțiile noastre la nivel local. Asta a fost problema acolo. Vreau o altă întrebare, dacă este.
Este o foarte bună idee, cred că pentru implementare și în APL-uri, în administrația publică locală, ce ține de prestarea serviciilor publice. Și chiar ar fi bine ca site-urile noastre web a primăriilor să arate în felul următor și cetățenilor să le fie ușor să acceseze. La moment, primăriile chiar într-adevăr ne întâmpinăm cu dificultăți în ce ține digitizarea serviciilor publice. Cam noi suntem încă la etapa când totul e pe suport de hârtie, ceea ce nu corespunde cerințelor secolului 21 și chiar ar fi foarte oportun și binevenit ca să preluăm practica noastră ca să îmbunătățim calitatea serviciilor publice, fiindcă asta este menirea autorităților publice locale și ca persoanele să aibă acces cât mai rapid la serviciile noastre publice locale. Fiindcă noi suntem și emitenți la autorizație de construire, certificate de urbanism, adică procesul de edificare a construcțiilor și rapiditatea este un factor foarte important pentru dezvoltarea comunităților și am vrea să împărtășiți experiența noastră cu noi. Vă mulțumim mult și să facem și noi o pagină web care să fie atractivă și accesată din orice colț al lumii. Vă mulțumim!
Yes. Was there any questions to me as well?
We all good, thank you. Mulțumesc. Așa, mergem mai departe și văd că s-a alăturat Tonis Savi. Bună ziua, Tonis! Bine ai venit la Chișinău în format online. Câteva cuvinte despre Tonis. Tonis este fondatorul, este arhitect și urbanist și este fondatorul conceptului, dar cred că mai multe va spune Tonis, Living Streets sau orașe vii. Poate povestești mai mult, Tonis, despre asta? Până trecem la prezentare.
Hello, hello. I assume that it's my turn now. Just a second, I try to get the right thing shared and then we can start. So, yeah, I was asked to talk about fostering citizen-led urban innovation and creativity on this topic.
And just 1 second, please.
Yeah.
No. Da, se aude. Tonis, you can proceed. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's an old picture I put here in the front. That's probably my first encounter with being in the same room with decision makers from local government and from different small groups of, back then it was about cycling routes in Tallinn. It was a small seminar. Let me see. But yeah, I'm an architect, I'm an urban planner, and I'm also founding member of Living Street NGO. I'm also part of Estonian Urban Cyclist Union, and I also have a small architectural studio and a mobility agency. So I'm involved in urban space in really different ways. And also it's a bit, it has been quite an evolution, like how I have been like participating in the debate and decision making in urban space. Just to get ourselves in the same path, walking in the same path. One of the best quotes I'm using lately in all my presentations is from a good friend of mine, the main architect of Tartu, the second biggest city in Tallinn. And he said something so simple, but also something very powerful. He said, yeah, cities are for people. That's something we all know, but that's a simple fact we tend to forget. Also, another wise man with whom I have met, but I can't unfortunately say that we are friends, would like to have more chats with him. Jan Gehl, a Danish architect and urban planner and thinker. And he has this notion that something happens because something happens because something happens. And it goes in, he said it in the sense that in urban environment, usually like to get things going there, to start something there, there has to be this first happening. But it also goes in other way, like because sometimes some things happen. Yeah, it's really universal idea. It's again really simple, but it works. And third, maybe really important understanding to like just to go to this into this thought process here is that street is our common living room, and at least in Estonia, it's something that's really forgotten, and it's somewhat it's not really like easy for people to understand it sometimes, I would say. So I said, yeah, I'm involved in urban transitions and transformations, like all over. Like I'm immersed there. I'm really dealing with it in really different levels. But just to understand that what we're talking about, in the end, we talk, if we say about urban innovation and changes in urban environment, then mostly we talk about people's living conditions. We talk about living qualities, how well we can live as citizens. Do we have, does the environment support our moving freedom? Like, can we move freely? And in that sense, we don't mean like without traffic jams, but we mean that you have the freedom of choice, like how you move in an urban environment. Does the public space offer me the services that it needs to provide? That, like, for example, like greenery, trees, that's linked to our mental health. Does it support the businesses that are on the edge of the street, etc., etc.? So it's really important to understand that. And it's also a picture that I use quite often. It's from NACTO, it's North American Committee of Transport Associations or something like this. Can't remember. I always forget the name. But anyway, it's NACTO. and they have really nice guide materials how to like rethink the city. And it's one picture from there, like what's possible. And we can see that the same street can look quite different regarding of what we are aiming for. And the other thing is like here are 23 different persons who all have something to say about the street. That's illustration from an exhibition I did a bit over a year ago. It has politicians, social scientists, engineers, traffic engineers, architects, activists, etc., etc. The idea why I'm showing these pictures that if we talk about public spaces, then we always have really a lot of different opinions and different takes on it. Yeah, it's 21 different approaches to the street on this picture, but we also understood that we just started to scrape the surface on this topic, like to whom the street belongs, for example. And yeah, just to support the previous picture is like usual. Let's take the usual critique off in the beginning. Yeah, if we change the streets more complex so that it provides more services, then usually the main critique is, yeah, but what about traffic? But yeah, if we talk about the traffic of persons, like how many persons can bypass the street during that time, not bypass, go through, then it's usually, the number is in the end is usually higher. Yeah, just the idea of to whom the street belongs, like we have different users. And also another important notion just to go in there is that the environment that we have built and we have around us really affects how we use, like what are we doing there, how we use it. It's from traffic decisions, like if we build for cars, then we drive cars. If we have good alternatives, good solutions for other means of traffic, then people will use it, and vice versa. If we take away the space, then we get just traffic. But it also, the same principle goes to all other activities. If we provide possibilities, then people usually use it if we have the space like that. So yeah, in the end, it's just a matter of decision. Either we live in cities of the highways, or we live in cities built for people. From other, like, and that's the not ideological, but that's the ground that I'm standing from. That's the way I see the shifts in urban environment, what's necessary to achieve that. There's plenty of opportunities. One is to just lobby and go through the political systems and just try to like get involved in your home street and what's possible to change there, etc., etc. But the other option is to get people excited about the change that you are aiming for, or you as a group or as a society or whoever. And that's, if you get people excited about something, then they will get interested in it. And if they get interested in it, then they will educate themselves. And if they are educated, then they know how to apply pressure to politicians. Just some, when I was thinking about today's like topic, then I was thinking, like at first I was thinking to speak only about the Elav tänaval Living Street project, but then I understood that it would be not fair for the previous waves of urban activism, or like or I was thinking what were the really innovative things in urban environment that happened in Tallinn in the last, let's say, 20 years that I've been living in Tallinn. And one that popped into my mind was the street festival of Uus-Maailm, the New World. It's not. It's just a part of our neighborhood in Tallinn that's called New World, and that was pretty much the first street festival I remember, or I probably, it might be that I'm wrong, but that was the first one. Yeah, it started small, but it grew and got really mainstream at one point. So you had the whole neighborhood full of vendors and visitors, and really a lot of people came together from all over the city just to experience this new kind of usage in public space. They closed the streets for traffic, and then they had street food, performances, concerts, children's play areas, etc., etc. But it was just this one festive moment in a year where they had this festival type of thing, and they somehow broke through somehow they managed to do it there on the streets. Later on, now we have a more famous one in Estonia is in Tartu. They have this car-free boulevard project going on for years now. When street festival of Uus-Maailm is in a neighborhood, it's not on the main streets of the city, then Tartu is actually closing down a really important, let's say, traffic-wise maybe important street for traffic, and but the innovation happened actually years before in Tallinn in a festival format. The other thing that popped into my mind is the Day of Home Cafes. I think the biggest wave was in Tallinn first. Actually, I think they started in a really small town in Estonia, in one of the islands, but it really grew in Tallinn, in Kalamaja. It's another neighborhood, and it's again this street festival type of thing where people are actually doing cafes in their own home yards or in front of their houses. It started in Tallinn. It grew big in Tallinn. At first, people went to see it as a curiosity. What the hell? What are you doing there? But it grew and it got really mainstream. So now I think all of the settlements in Tallinn have their own home cafe days. Sometimes if I see the ads, then I think, okay, like from distance, the village seems to have like five houses, and on the Day of Home Cafes, they have 3 cafes. Again, but what it does is it's forcing this one concept in urban environment, the street cafe. It forces it in this small space of time, and then also in location, it's really concentrated, and it really like empowers this idea of street cafe for 1 or 2 days. Of course, the Kalamaja can't have like, I don't know, 60 cafes for every day, but what can happen there is that people understand, okay, but it's actually quite okay idea to have a cafe here in this neighborhood, or like just to have a lunch on the street cafe. It's somewhat okay. Or what they learn to ask for different qualities through that. As the previous 2 things were like something that I've just witnessed from distance, then the next one is something that I've been part of last 10 years. And that's the Tour de Öö, which means Tour de Night. It's a group ride that takes place quite randomly, but we have done, I think, over 60 group rides in last 10 years. The biggest one was 3,500 people in Tallinn. And the idea was to get people excited about bikes. And we understood that it would be almost impossible to break through the bureaucracy of city government to get bike lanes or to get some some progress, like just going through the official way of doing things. And when we understood that, okay, but that's something we really don't want to do. Disclaimer, I ended up doing it anyway later. and actually from this, with what something that started from activism and the enthusiasm of doing cool things has taken over my life in that sense that now it's, at least 50% of my workload and income dealing with mobility and urban, like moving spaces in the urban environment. But Tour de got people on the bikes. I know a lot of people wrote us that, that was the first time I was actually riding my bike on the drive lanes of the street. And I never knew that we have so many other bike riders and people who first couple of times came with their sport bikes, later on came with the city bikes, and they said, hey guys, look, I bought just a city bike just to come to the Tour de now. But what it did is like people who came to like this, again, this one really forced concentrated event of cycling in the city. Not all of them were like all the time the everyday cyclists, but what they did, that they got the experience and they had this chance to be in this bubble of utopia, urban utopia, for a couple of hours. And probably it was a lot easier for them to try out, I don't know, some days and maybe some weeks, and then I'm pretty sure that for a lot of them the cycling in the city got really something that's normal, that you just do it. To support actually Tour de grew out from Tallinn Bicycle Week. It was a like urban culture festival focusing on bicycles that we did, I don't know, 8 years, I think. Now last year we have skipped it during the pandemic. But we had seminars, we had parties, different, we introduced different aspects of cycling culture. And from that, we got people excited. We had a lot of fun, but also we went into like more into serious topics with the seminars, or we really, as we had such a big movement behind us, we became also important partners for the city government to discuss about bike lanes and etc. It didn't go really easily, but at least it went there. And just to get an idea what the start of Tour de did look like on the, I think that was one of the biggest ones in the main square of Tallinn, then that's already a statement that we had. And that's something. In the end, we did it all over Estonia, like in most of the bigger cities, and a lot of cities still like wrote us that, hey, when are you coming back to, I don't know, Viljandi and do it? And we then lately the answer is like, yeah, guys, we showed you how to do it. You got the experience. No, just do it yourself, get involved. But out of all that, now we're getting to the Living Street. That's something that was founded 1.5 years ago. We had the cycling movement was already on, and somehow at one point public space in a bigger spectrum became quite a hot topic in society. And then actually I knew like half of the group here before we founded it, and so we got a couple of new friends here. And it all started from an article that Kristjan Lepik, who's the guy with the yellow sweater there, wrote, and he got a lot of messages that, oh yeah, you touched a really like important topic for me, and so on and so on. And so he had gathered all the people together, and from this group of people, in the end, yeah, how many? Yeah, 7 of us went through and started an NGO. And the idea was to get, again, people excited, but also like now it was already not just let's do festive things or like just do this one-time things. It was more about breaking through to the measuring the effects and etc. We started also again with a couple of small tests and some just, yeah, again, we tried really small things now where you don't organize yourself a big festival, but you ask people to do the step that they organized it themselves. Like we had this bench day where we asked people that, okay, this particular Sunday, get some chairs or some benches out on the street and have lunch there with your friends. I don't know, play chess with your kids, do whatever. And the idea was just to like somehow bring the idea that the street is our own communal living room, this a little bit further. And we had got really good feedback from that. People did it, enjoyed it, but there was also a lot of get together of like somebody started the bench with the bench, and then some neighbors came out who were like-minded, and you had this community building aspect in the neighborhood. And I'm pretty sure that this bench day had this quite important effect towards doing the parklets in the city. That's something we already also had pushed and explained quite a long time already. Just take one parking space away, give the parklet there. But the bench day somehow is the first step towards something more permanent, like the parklet, which is still temporary thing. But from that, we can grow further to actually building the streets that already have the parklets or have these qualities in it. Here, at least in Estonia, usually if we talk about, I don't know, having some human scale cityscapes, then it's always, yeah, but we have half the year is a shitty ski weather, like, and who will be outside there, and etc., etc. But no, again, Jan Gehl's notion is that people are different, live in different cultures and climates, but they all gather in public if you give them a good place to do it. And a nice example of that is from last winter. Some guys did a cafe in the middle of Pärnu Bay. It has been mainly summer kurort city, like for tourists, but now last year's the winter aspect comes more and more important. It's good ice fishing location when the ice is good enough. And the guys who do the fishing tours there, they decided to do a cafe in the middle of the bay. It was 2.5 kilometers from the coast in the middle of ice. I think there was 1,000 people going through the cafe during this day. So yeah, weather is not the aspect. If you give a good enough reason, then people come out and gather there. And if people gather, then they get new connections. And if they get new connections, that's the starting point for innovation in the end. Another example that we did in Tallinn with Elav Tänav, with Living Street, that's the end result. But the forestry is that it was this. It's a nice residential area, but the street space in there looked like on the left picture on the left, a lot of asphalt, a lot of fast possibilities for car users. And we did design proposal, went to the city, pitched it in a city government. Somehow, probably because it was just before elections, they actually said that, yeah, we will do it. It was tricky and hardcore to see how poorly the city government actually was able to execute it. But yeah, after a couple of months, we ended up with a new situation where with bollards and some plant pots and some paint, the cityscape was, or the traffic space was redesigned. It had excess space from traffic space was carved out and given back to the pedestrians and local residents. And yeah, met a lot of different opinions about this whole situation there. Other people were really annoyed that it was done with this low quality elements. Some were worried about parking spots, some were worried about who knows what. But the most important thing that came out from there is that previously there was quite a lot of pressure, like implementation, talking about using these pop-up or like temporary solutions to improve, like make quick reliefs in the cityscape. But city government was really reluctant to do it. After this transition that we made together with the city government, they actually started to use the same toolbox of things in different projects that they were doing themselves. So the picture on the right actually is just a crossing. Actually, it's 200 meters where I am right now. And that was a really nice surprise for us because that was something that city government did by themselves, and they used the same toolbox and same ideology, or like the same approach that we did in another project. Or now they did some pop-up bike lanes, and they used again the same toolbox, which is really important. Now then, another, as I said, with Living Street, our idea was from the beginning to go more deeper and go more into the process of decision making and to see where the problems actually start. So it was quite a small intervention. It's a street that's, I don't know, 400 meters long, and it has a really high level of traffic on it. And it's quite wide, and the width of the street is actually so that it has one lane, but it has this extra space that we carved out from there as a 2-week experiment. Before we started with the spatial experiment, we measured the traffic flow there a couple of weeks before without the intervention. And then when we did this small, like narrowing the drive lane, then we measured it again, and then we had this comparison that, hey guys, you can do the street narrower, it doesn't affect the traffic, but you can find a lot of space for other uses. And parallel to that, we did during this iteration, we had also this these posters up, and it encouraged people to give feedback or express their thoughts about the existing environment there, and what are the problems that they are facing there. And then we used it's called POXE method. This problem, POXE is short for problem, origin, goal, solution, evaluation. It's actually a design thinking method. And with this method, we actually went through all the problems that were mapped out there. And then we did a small proposition, like how to do a quick intervention again, like with the same bollards and paint and planting, so that you can solve, I don't know, 2/3 of the origins of the problems that were on the street. That one was left on the paper because there city had some other plans that they rerouted some traffic and had some street constructions around the area, so they didn't want to go in there in this particular street this time. And just to understand like where we are going or how we are building this momentum of new ideas and implementing the new ideas to the public opinion and also into the decision making is that with Living Street we have right now in working or in process is the Urban Dwellers Toolbox, or like Urban Citizen Toolbox, which is planned as a guidebook, like if you buy a washing machine, then you get this manual how to use the washing machine. So we are pretty much thinking about the similar thing for people who live in the cities, that how you actually can use the city. Like one is that what we do every day, but actually what I am allowed to do in the public space, or like how to ask for a parklet in your street, or how to get involved in one or the other thing, and so on and so on. So that's something that we built for the background, or that's is like as this let's say theoretical, or like on paper thingy. Then we are working on recreating the central public spaces of neighborhoods. That's resonates with the street intervention we did in Kadriorg. And then one big thing is trying to get the change in the mandatory parking rules in the new developments. That's something that we have here as a big problem, that from different documents comes the mandatory parking spaces numbers for new developments, and that's actually something that generates a lot of car usage, but also it's space. It takes a lot of space, and it also affects the price of real estate it makes it more expensive. And that's something that we are working now also in the background, like to get this idea going that, yeah, maybe we shouldn't build so much parking. Maybe we can find some other solutions. Again, working in this mindset field. And then we want to also like still go on and do some pop-up street improvements. Now we know that it quite possibly is focusing the schools and mainly schools in Tallinn, and getting the street design better around schools, so that parents won't feel the need to drive their kids to the front door, but they can actually maybe drop off kids a little bit further, or the kids can actually go into school themselves. Some references to look at. One really nice thing is this Tactical Urbanist Guidebook. If you Google it, then you can find it. It has some nice illustrations and nice case studies. It's constantly, they are rebuilding or like updating the site and also the manual regularly. Another thing we did with Living Street, that's unfortunately just in Estonian, is this tricks how to domesticate public space. It has some, I can't remember exactly, I think 12 case studies of how to like get how people can domesticate their home streets pretty much. Then this, I'm trying to wrap this up. It's like I really urge people to try different things. Like if you if you every day go with the bus, then maybe try to walk the other day or take a bike the other day. Or if you're driving the car, then try the bike or the bus, or just go take another route that you're usually taking. Or but it also goes in that way that if you are in a position where your decision allows or denies some tests or some events in the city, then always allow activists or people of interest to try different things. It goes in about events, but also like if somebody wants to try out a pop-up version of their home street or cafe or etc., whatever, you always try. Encourage people to shop locally and do it yourself as well. That's something that keeps the local life there. And last, a slide from Andrew Gilligan, Mayor of London Cycling Commissioner, who's after having a long presentation about new implementations in city, like what they had done and how successful all these changes were. In the end, he said, yeah, there will always be a very vocal, very loud minority of people who genuinely, passionately believe that their lives are going to be ruined because they have to wait 10 minutes in traffic, which means that like usually whenever you try to do something in public space, then the first annoying voices come from car users usually, or people who are actually maybe not even car users, but they think that car users will get stuck in traffic or whatever. In the end, that's really not important, and you shouldn't allow this into the process. So yeah, but with that notion, I will wrap up for the day. Thank you. If there's any questions, remarks, then I'm more than happy to answer.
Eu cred că întrebări și comentarii ar fi foarte multe, pentru că, în mare parte, cel puțin din ceea ce cunosc eu, în multe localități au loc diferite activități în aer liber, care implică mulți oameni. Din păcate, mai lăsăm 5 minute de întrebări, comentarii? Mulțumesc foarte mult, Tonis. Mie foarte mult mi-a plăcut și colegilor m-am uitat cât de atent au ascultat și unele lucruri chiar le-au și notat. Și ca să trecem la următoarea, eu sper foarte mult că noi vom reuși împreună cu Eva să mai facem o sesiune și să continuăm discuțiile de astăzi, care noi le-am lansat atât cu Marco, cât și cu Cristina, cu Tonis acum, ca să continuăm și să discutăm, pentru că oarecum facem un pas alert totul acum și am vrea ca să trecem pe fiecare în parte și vreau să o prezint pe Bianca, care ne va vorbi despre construirea de spațiu creativ post-industrial. Este un lucru care se întâmplă acum în Estonia foarte mult, adică multe zone post-industriale sunt active și sunt edificate și sunt puse în valoare foarte bine. Și Bianca va aduce studiul de caz orașul Tallinn și orașul creativ Teleschivi. Sper că am vorbit corect, Bianca. Bună ziua! Bun venit în Moldova pe această cale.
Hello, everyone. If I understood correctly, you already introduced me and Teleschivi Creative City a bit, where I am at the moment. You can see from the background. And I feel so sorry that I cannot show you around. I would love to do it but I will then try to give you a short overview of who we are, what we do, and why. But I asked before, maybe Eva can now start the short video about Creative City. Then before I start my presentation, you can just visually maybe sense a bit where I am and how does it look like.
Yeah, let's try it. Does it work with voice? We had bad experience today in the morning that one video didn't get the sound, but let's try. I have this here.
And I'm on the road. Это не сегодня. Представьте.
Cool breeze. You thought you were blinded by the bright lights, but it was just me. And I'm on the roll. They want to shake things up, but we got it under control. They thought I was all shook up, but I got it.
I don't know, did you hear the music, but the video was here.
The video was a bit hectic. Something happened, but I hope you got the overview. And maybe if you have already some questions about what you saw, then you can go and ask me. If not, then I'll try to share my screen. Can you see my screen? All right. Okay, then I will tell you a bit about Creative City, how it all started. So probably you already know that Telliskivi Creative City is, like we call it, a city within a city. Creative area, actually the biggest creative economy systems are so-called of islands in Tallinn, with lots of events happening and lots of things going on. And it all started already a long time ago. Just a bit about the history, and you can see the map over here where we are located. And the area where we are in the middle of three very important districts in Tallinn. One is, of course, Old Town and City Center, which if I go outside, I can see from Telliskivi Creative City. And the two other districts are called Kalamaja and Pelgulin, two really lovely neighborhoods. Kalamaja is near the seaside, also near to the city center. And Telliskivi Creative City started to grow when the railway from Tallinn to St. Petersburg was started, because we are just a stone's throw away from the railway. And this was the time when lots of buildings were put up on the area, on the premises where we are now, in order to produce all kinds of components for the railway, and also afterwards as well in the Soviet time, when the district was nationalized, it produced everything, like all kinds of things, not only for the railway, but also for aircraft industry, for defense industry, for households, and etc. As you saw from the video as well, maybe you already see some familiar buildings or signs. So the colorful part is now that we call Telliskivi Creative City. So a quick leap from the Soviet times to today. We can say that 2007, 2008 were the birth of Telliskivi Creative City, because these were the years when the area was sold to the hands of the owners, who still today are the owners of Telliskivi Creative City. And before that, the area, after the collapse of Soviet Union and very hard times for not only in personal level, but in the country's economical level as well, it was a bit like a wasteland, just left as it was, because in the Soviet times, Telliskivi Creative City was a closed area, so people from the streets could not enter it. It was one of the biggest factories. So in the high times, more than 500 people were working here. It carried the name of Kalinin, a good friend of Lenin's, and the rumors say that he already worked on the area as well for a few years. And so, yeah, like I told you, the Soviet times, it was a successful factory, but when Estonia became independent, it was just left as it was. And when people bit by bit entered the area, there was nothing glorious about it. Everything was really in a very bad shape. So in 2007, 2008, when Telliskivi Creative City as a concept started, it was turned into a totally different phenomenon, something we know now, but actually the owners didn't know what was going to happen with the place, because nothing like similar to this or this concept to make something in the old industrial area and turn it into a lively community and creative center had never been carried out in Estonia. So it was like a big startup. So nobody knew what was going to happen. And in 2008, the first tenants moved into Creative City. One of them was a film festival called Black Nights Film Festival that is happening at the moment in Tallinn and in many places around Estonia. And this is now an A-category film festival. And these tenants who moved in the middle of 2000s, they are still here. And this is something to point out, because most of the tenants who move in, they like it here and they stay for years. And this is something that we measure our success as well with. So you can see the area here. Telliskivi Creative City consists of the 10 buildings that were mostly abandoned. And so bit by bit, they have been shaped up. Most of them have stayed as they are, in the sense that nothing has demolished. And a nice fact, nice in a funny way, is that the idea before Telliskivi Creative City was to take down all the old buildings and to build a living quarter here, with even the first skyscrapers in the north of Tallinn. But when the economic crash came, this was not started. And today we can say that it was a fortunate occasion in that sense. So you can see a photo from our limestone legacy, because we do have quite many limestone buildings or buildings with parts of limestone, the Estonian national stone. And here you can see the front entrance of the industrial complex. So when Telliskivi Creative City was not creative, but was very industrial. And also a nice photo from the middle of 2000s, when the owners had received the area. And so this is what we see in the same place now. You can see Fotografiska. Maybe you have heard of it, but this is something we're very proud of. It's like one of our newest babies, because Fotografiska opened its doors just 3 years ago. And Fotografiska is an international photo gallery, started in Stockholm, and now it has roots or parts all over the world. And Tallinn was actually the second gallery to open outside of Stockholm. After that, in London, in New York, Fotografiskas were open. And why I'm talking about Fotografiska is that you can see the building. It's a 5-storied building that was before known as Red House. It was in an awful shape because it was built in the Soviet times. The materials and techniques that were used were not the best, and it was in a very, very bad shape. Trees were growing from the roots and etc. But still some festivals were happening there, but it was really like we prayed to God each time that something was happening there, that it all goes well. And there were many big corporates that wanted to rent or even buy the building, like big telecompanies who were offering lots of money for owning the building. But this is maybe one of the important points that I want to tell you about now, is that we very carefully show who we let to reside here in Telliskivi Creative City. And this is also one of the reasons why this building was empty for years, because we hadn't found the right so-called groom who could come and really marry the building in a way that we would also feel that this is a match made in heaven. So when Fotografiska opened its doors, and before that they came up with the idea to make a photo gallery together also with residential floors and a restaurant on the top floor, which has a concept of using everything in the kitchen, from tail to toes to the skin and noses, in a picturesque way, which actually means that nothing is wasted. And we have a really well-known chef working here, and Fotografiska's concept was marked also in the Michelin star now contest that was just announced a few months ago. So this is a good example why sometimes waiting for the right person, the right feeling, the right concept is worth doing. Also, a nice view from years behind. You can see cars on the picture. A very important thing also to mark is that Telliskivi Creative City now is a carless area. Cars are not allowed to the premises. And this is how it looks like today. So on the left-hand side, you can see our open outdoor gallery, open 24/7 with photo exhibitions, even paintings. Just an hour ago, Estonian National Broadcast came here to make overview of the new exhibition that we opened just a few days ago. And you can also see from the slide that there is a open air cinema happening. So what else we have? I told you that we are like a city within a city. So we have 10 buildings that I mentioned you. We have around 1,500 people coming to work each day to Telliskivi Creative City, and Eva is actually one of them who resides here in Telliskivi Creative City. And we have a nursery for kids, we have a barber shop for men, we have printing houses, But what's more important, we have lots and lots of creative spaces. So what you are seeing now on the slide is our theatre called Vaba Lava, or if you translate it, it's Free Stage. It was a theatre built now around 8 years ago, and before that there were no theatres built in the last 100 years. So the last one was Estonian National Opera, and it had a very unusual concept. Why it's called the Free Stage is that it didn't have a concrete crew, so people working there all the time like normal theaters do, like actors and directors and so on, but it was open space for all kinds of groups to try out their ideas. And something similar we have also regarding dance. So we have our own independent dance hall where contemporary dancers can do the same that they can do on this theater stage. And also we have one very modern theatre or event space as well. This is called Club of Different Rooms. This is, you can see on the left-hand side, there is a hall where during the Soviet times, all kinds of parties, funerals, whatever was held in here. But today we have concerts. This is in technical wise a really unique space in Tallinn with all its touch pads and electronic and technical systems. So you can carry out whatever crazy ideas you have with the help of the Club of Different Rooms. So what else we have? We have, beside the small creative businesses and theatres, 2 shopping streets. We actually call the shopping street space for indie shops. Why we call the shops that we have here indie shops is the reason that they are actually quite independent, small, really original shops that you can find nowhere else in Tallinn. And this is also a concept that we cherish a lot, that we don't really want big corporate shops here, but we prefer always small family businesses or businesses that do something differently, who even maybe feel like a risk for some owners of real estates, but we really try to support them and give them an opportunity to start their businesses. And what else we have also very tightly connected with the creative side of Creative City are galleries. And today both of these shopping streets have also a gallery. And overall, we have lots of galleries in Telliskivi Creative City. I mentioned before, and you saw from one slide, that was outdoor gallery. So beside that, the Fotografiska, of course, with its remarkable photo exhibitions that change in every few months and have really world-famous names. For example, at the moment, we have an exhibition of Andy Warhol's Polaroid photos. Then we have another independent gallery called Vaal Gallery, a documentary photography center. Then we have Tree Gallery, also outside, where we only actually show themes or topics that are maybe not so nice to see for the eye, but that carry still an important message. Either they tell stories from the war zone, or they depict the lives and thoughts of gay communities, or etc. So this is something we really feel that we want to show, and that we are open democratic place, and we can also say out loud how we feel about things. And yeah, and in the shopping streets as well, we have a gallery with exchanging photo, painting, graphic exhibitions. So lots of people coming to the Creative City each year. This is a photo from outdoor concert And it's maybe good to mark down that we have lots of events happening here, around 600. Before the corona pandemic, the number was even more than 800 events per year. So if you calculate, you really have like many events each day, either than a theater show, a party, or a quiz somewhere in a cafe. And it's very important for us that people who come here, they feel free. They feel that they are part of the city space. That Tõnis also mentioned you that that it is very important to know your people or who come to your places, and how important a comfortable city space is, where just people could come as they are, either they are in wheelchairs, they are families, whatever. We try to make it as comfortable for them as possible. Some facts here you can see. I mentioned already that we are 10 buildings and situated in an area of around 30,000 square meters. We have around 1.5 million visitors each year, lots of cultural events. Maybe biggest events that we have are music festivals called Tallinn Music Week, an international contemporary music festival, and the Jazzcar, a jazz music festival. And of course, our residents that are around 1,500 people or 300 companies. They also organize events that then either we support or help with the communication. So it's always, in a sense, funny to tell about or talk about our mission and visions, as we are still a real estate enterprise, although we don't feel like this. And this is also a controversial thing, because different groups, people who are coming to Creative City, they are really interested and actually amused of how this kind of concept can make money, how like real estate area that is renting out spaces can actually be a well-working community platform. And this is why we have crossed out the buildings and real estate and have replaced it with community platform, because this is just the part that is far more important to us. We do have Excels, but this is nothing that in our everyday work we consider so important. So for more important for us is to make the area really comfortable, friendly, like a self-sufficient city where the residents who are working here, people who come to visit here, feel that they are part of it. And yeah, we like to use the term that Telliskivi Creative City is a fertile ground for fragile ideas. I mentioned it a bit with the indie shops. So often we take risks when trying out some ideas, either to take some tenants or start with a new festival or new events, or maybe to exchange or change some tenants, or make really fast decisions in order to change something. But this is something we can do, as we are a private company, and we don't need to, where the line of the decision makers is not big, is actually quite short. So we have the privilege to try out ideas in just like a second when it feels like a right thing to do. So this is what this rent And content means that actually the content is more important to us. And 95 and 5. So what does this mean? So 90% we consider are the creative companies residing in Telliskivi Creative City. And then other 5 and 5 are then businesses that really bring money to us, either than the restaurants or some bigger spaces. And also we have lots of startups who have their offices here. So culture, a few words about that as well. I mentioned the festivals we have here. We are quite eager to try out new ideas ourselves as well. So we have one of our own festivals. We have actually had many. For example, for years we had a festival for street food. So Tallinn Street Food Festival was a really successful big festival that we organized for years, that even brought money to us. And yeah, in many sense, it was easy to carry out. Visitors would also always come, but at one point we felt that street food is nothing innovative maybe anymore, and also it is everywhere, and we didn't feel that we connected really well, in a sense that we also didn't feel that this gives something back to the community, or this can change something, or we can maybe talk about some important issues in our society with the street food. So we canceled the street food festival, but we started a new one, art festival called I Don't Understand. So we have had it for a few years now. The main idea behind this festival is to talk about art, to talk about contemporary art, and maybe to turn around the concept I don't understand, as the festival says, to assure people that actually art is something that we all understand, or even if we feel that we don't understand it, it's okay. And with our festival, we try to make links and build bridges between families, people who are actually all kinds of people, because our target group is quite wide, who feel that they maybe need just a bit of help to get in touch with contemporary art. So it's a 2-day festival happening each summer. It changes the focus. So we started with the street art. This year we had a festival focused on sculpture, and next year it will be about the sound art. And I'm also the head organizer of this festival. So this is something really dear and important to me, because I feel that, as I mentioned you, that contemporary art is for me something really amazing. We can tell stories and open different perspectives through art, but maybe it's the same in Moldova, and of course in different countries as well, that somehow people are a bit afraid of contemporary art, although they might go to theaters and music events, but there is something with contemporary art still that needs to be figured out. The role in society is something that we considered important, as I mentioned to you about the Tree Gallery, the project we represent there, the art festivals that we do. And if we feel something is out of order in society, we are not afraid to say it out loud. So there is no distinction between personal and corporate values for us. And it's the moral compass rather that we use doing our everyday work here, thinking ahead and composing the vision for Telliskivi Creative City. So the impact, if you have a second, you can roll your eyes over the slides. So the right hand numbers the high numbers like elections in Russia, but really we are really important, proud of it, because there has been quite many surveys carried out in the area. And
Camelia, spune, te rog, Bianca, că eu am să citesc aceste cifre, că o să fie mai ușor, că tu nu le vezi foarte bine la tine. Ok, mersi. Deci, conform acestor cifre, 76% îmbunătățirea în ceea ce privește siguranța publică, 89% în îmbunătățirea calității vieții, 88% de creșterea activismului rezidenților la nivel local și implicați în comunitate, 86% sunt mai implicați în dezvoltarea spațiilor din oraș, și 80% raportează că este o creștere în bunăstarea socială și 98% simt acel impact pozitiv asupra reputației la nivel de raion. 90% din cetățeni respondenți spun că serviciile de acces s-au îmbunătățit și consumul de cultură sau de servicii culturale au crescut cu 96%. Asta este partea de îmbunătățiri. Deci, dacă să vorbim despre premii, premiul este pentru locul întâi în ceea ce privește partajarea de transport și ca destinații de transport partajat. Asta sunt așa platforme cum este BlaBlaCar. Dacă nu știți, vă rog să vă uitați. Când șoferii între dânsii oferă servicii de transport și sunt înregistrați pe această platformă și poți merge doar, adică, de exemplu, tu scrii cine are drum, știți despre ce este vorba. Când atunci numărul 1 în ceea ce ține de termenul de căutare în vizitatorii din Estonia, iarăși a fost desemnată ca și compania anului, desemnat cu titlul de prieten al culturii și model internațional de dezvoltare urbană. 100% sunt companii private care au fost dezvoltate fără suportul sistemului public sau sectorului public. Camelia, te rog să continui. Vă rog să continuați.
So, that's cute. And probably you are interested now, how would your business or how do we survive? You can see that there is a sign on the slide which shows that this building was built without the support of EU money. So this was actually outside of Fotografiska, the photo gallery I mentioned you. And now it's important to note that we are, a private property, which in a sense it's easy for us to do decisions, but on the other hand, we have never received support from the city, from the country, from any support programs. So it has been a tough ride, and the outcome is surprisingly and actually unexpectedly positive, because you can also see the graphics from on the photo, that how financially it has been. So actually the numbers that consist of all kinds of incomes, outcomes, they have gone up. So Telliskivi Creative City has done well, but the support system, it's very independent, and we have no other investors or support systems behind us. So this is briefly it from my side about Telliskivi Creative City. I hope you got an overview from the video and from the slides of what we are, how we work, and why we do things. But if you do have questions for me, then I'm happy to answer.
Eu am fost, din fericire, am avut ocazia să văd Teleschivi câțiva ani în urmă, cred că prin 2000, nu știu când, iarăși am avut posibilitatea și iarăși am fost la oficiul Evei. Și este un spațiu frumos, un spațiu interesant, un spațiu organizat foarte bine, atractiv. Dar dacă aveți întrebări, haideți să luăm 2-3 întrebări.
Noi vrem să spunem că, într-adevăr, avem și noi necesitatea de revitalizarea clădirilor, avem multe clădiri abandonate, dar chiar antreprenorii care suntem astăzi în sală din Ștefan Vodă, la fel, au luat o clădire care deja era abandonată, a fost o bancă și acum sunt la momentul de revitalizare, așa că ei au pescuit ideile care le-ați împărtășit cu noi și sper că când veniți în Moldova o să vedeți ceva frumos și la noi implementat în practica voastră. Într-adevăr, sunt multe dificultăți, inclusiv și financiar, mai ales că avem și un război la frontieră și, într-adevăr, sunt multe impedimente pentru a realiza ideile creative, dar sperăm că totul va fi bine și vom avea și noi asemenea practici. Vă mulțumim mult că ați împărtășit practica noastră cu noi și suntem siguri că ați avut și noastră multe obstacole până ați avut realizările care le-am văzut astăzi. Vă mulțumim mult!
Mulțumesc, Olga.
Eu am o întrebare. Ați spus că administrația publică nu prea tare s-a implicat în ceea ce s-a făcut acolo până la urmă. Dar unde credeți că era bine să se implice și, nu știu, poate vedeți ca o recomandare pentru alții sau pentru de noi? Și a doua este un spațiu totul de mare, noi suntem între comunități mici. Cu ce ar trebui să începem noi în comunitățile mici? În sens că noi nu avem așa infrastructuri mari care trebuie să le înnoim, dar ceva mai mic avem și poate cum ar trebui noi să începem, cum vedeți?
Sorry, Bianca doesn't hear you. All on tõlkenupp, seal on inglise keel, pane sinna inglise keele peale. Alumise riba peal on tõlge ja seal vajuta inglise keel.
Nii panin.
No. Now, Camelia, you have to repeat now the question.
Okay, I will do the question in English. Can you hear me, Bianca? Marina, pune la original. I'll do the question in English. Just a second. Sau poate vrei tu să o pui în engleză. Dar eu dăm noți în minte.
Nu spune în engleză.
The first part of the question, Bianca, can you hear me? Please confirm. So the first part of the question was, you said that the local public administration didn't have any interference in the process of developing Teleskivi. So the other, so if it were for them to get involved, at what stage do you think they should have gotten involved and they could have helped you? So this is the first question. And the second question is related to, so we are from small communities. I just remembered the question. That's why I just turned around. We're from small communities. And for us, we do have spaces that could be reutilized, could be refurbished, but they are much smaller in scale. Where do you think we should start first? At what level and what processes should we take care of in order to build and to capitalize these assets?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for the questions. So the first one was if we would have had any help or cooperations on different levels, either from the city or country, right? Actually, I cannot answer it because the concept was when it was sold to the current owners that it will stay a private company, although maybe in some stages the money would have been a help. But now we are really happy that we are as independent as we are, because we can really make decisions as we feel, like what we feel with our stomachs, or however you say it. And the process goes far more quickly if we are the only deciders. So there are always like minuses and pluses. For some period, the money can be a problem in order to, if especially your idea or aim is to process some things really quickly or have a progress in a short amount of times. But in a larger scale, I think the independence is a great value. And about my recommendation of how a small scale project could start, or what would be the most important things to note. So I cannot answer it because I would ask you back first, what is your aim? So this is the most important thing. What do you want to do? What is actually the core concept of either the place or some really abstract idea you have? What and why you want to develop. So if you want to make quick money, then yeah, it's either this or that, but it's for me really hard to say it like that if I don't know and haven't seen the core values of what could happen.
Marina, just a second. Original. Thank you, Bianca. It was great. I think you already answered the question. It starts with the aim when we were talking about designing spaces that fit the residents, and basically that's exactly what we talked in the previous presentation. And you basically answered it in a format that we start with involving the residents and finding what would be the aim of the new space and how it should be recreated in terms, because this is actually, as I understand, it's public property, right? Yes, it's a public property. So basically we start from that. Mai aveți întrebări? Do we have any other questions?
Au ceva specialiști adică de design în echipă sau cum au format această comunitate lor, tot ce este nevoie de specialiști în construcție, cum au hotărât întrebările astea, pentru că face clădirea renovată, noi trebuie să o fac și am apelez la studii pe oameni care trebuie ușor să începe la început. Deci eu nu, dar
Bianca, if you would stay, like you remember your team, like, or do you know that when you recollect the stories, who are and what are the roles of the people that are involved in redesigning these types of spaces? What could be the staffing for this type of projects? Because we have here a private entrepreneur that he has this type of space and he would be interested in redesigning, of course, much smaller in scale, in redesigning it and making it fit. But who are the people that he just must get them on board? Staff-wise.
So if it's a space that you already, there is something happening and the idea is there what this place should be.
Yeah, it is a space and there is an idea. Aveți un spațiu și o idee ce ar trebui să fie. Yes, we have another community. It's a private entrepreneur.
So I always approach these kinds of initiatives in a very holistic way. So that's why I asked you as well that what is the idea or purpose. So if you already have an idea of what you want to do, and now you want to redesign everything, then actually, I think a small group of people with who represent different disciplines is enough. So interior designers together with maybe some community designers. So when we talk about Telliskivi Creative City, the community design and how to make people feel nice and how they could also change and come up with their ideas, it comes from inside. And actually the other parts I think are also coming from inside. So it's again hard for me to say that you should have a like interior designer and then an architect and then a community manager and then maybe a gardener and etc. But because from our example, our team is very small and we use like help from outside quite rarely. So if we come up with a new idea, we first like discuss within ourselves. We have the capacity of fixing pipes and etc. And I don't know, painting ceilings and organizing events. But I can say that that our core team that maybe is in a sense, I think quite versatile is enough for us. So again, sorry, but it's hard for me to say that you should have this and this and this, a graphic designer, and it depends what you want to do.
Thank you, Bianca. Thank you for the very conclusive answer. Aveți întrebări? Okay, thank you so much, Eva. Thank you, Bianca. Thank you, everybody. It was a great presentation. We had a lot of fun. And I hope this is just the inception of something great that is going to take place in Valul Traian. I will let you discover that. So we will share with you once you come to Moldova. We're trying to convince to come to Moldova. Bianca, welcome to Moldova. If you have never been, welcome, and I hope you would like to taste some of our wines and some of our fruits and vegetables. They're very tasty, people say. I miss them every time I travel. And I'm really grateful for everybody. Vreau să vă mulțumesc pentru toți, pentru prezență și pentru discuții și sper că asta să fie începutul a niște proiecte interesante ca noi să le dezvoltăm în comun de acord. So I said everything in Romanian, almost the same thing in English. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
Bianca, have you been to Moldova?
I haven't.
Welcome. Do you like wine or not?
I love wine.
Do you like fruits and vegetables?
I love them.
Okay, it's up to both.
So a perfect destination for me. I would love to come.
We had the Soviet reputation of the garden of the Soviet Union. It wasn't granted for nothing. So welcome for you to taste. I actually, every time I travel, that's what I miss about Moldova most. We have 0-calorie cakes. That means you're going to eat and then we are going to go around and you're going to lose all the calories. Everyone knows about that. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have the calories. It just zero them. Because we do a lot of walking. Yeah. Atât pentru ziua de astăzi. Mulțumesc foarte mult pentru toți participanții. Eva, thank you and hope to see you very soon.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Închide streaming-ul, te rog.